Hello typographer and welcome. Great to see you today for this live webinar on picking and pairing fonts. So just a short introduction of myself if you don't know me already. My name here is Oliver Schöndorfer. I'm a user interface designer and typographer from Austria. Here streaming right now to you, hopefully my friends, from this beautiful country in the center of Europe. And you might definitely know from the YouTube channel that I'm here to help you, teaching you things that can boost your designs with some pimped typography. So, you might already know me from the channel, but I also speak at conferences. I also do guest at podcasts, but definitely I also do expert articles, and there's one on Google Fonts Knowledge, which is not released yet, covering the topic of combining typefaces. So spoiler here and announcement, but you will find about that later in this webinar as well, about the subject, of course. So now this is something that should be interactive, and I'm talking to you here and I want your opinion on that. So my question for the chat right now is, do you think that the typeface influences how a message is perceived? Type in the chat, yes or no. And let's see how this works. Because definitely a typeface is something that shapes how a message might be perceived, or maybe it's just not that important and we don't really care. Okay, Espen says yes. Natalie, yes. 100%. Stevie G, yes. Nicole says yes. Oh, so many yes. Simpson, Crooks, Turia, absolutely. Of course, Yvonne. Stefan says absolutely. I said say yes, not absolutely, Stefan. Okay, no. So get it. But of course, it shapes the way how we perceive things, how we see this stuff. So, a heartfelt expression of love, or a creepy threat from that weirdo stalker are only one click away in your font menu, aren't they? Also, the professional practitioner or a strangely dated doctor, which I'm not sure. Is he using maybe a hammer and a bottle of whiskey for anesthesia? I might expect that. So not a very appropriate typeface for that, but stick with me because we're going to see this typeface in another situation where it works. Yeah, and definitely something that is sheer incompetence here. So this is definitely the world's worst font, and it actually is the world's worst font. I picked that out. And now we kind of start to see what lies behind Dr. Harold. Oh no, oh no, oh no. Okay, continuing. So my friend, 3 quick things before we dive into this. As you already might have seen, this is going to be interactive and fun. So this is what I really want to I really want that you participate in the chat. And I really want you also to learn a lot today. So there'll also be a Q&A at the end of this webinar. But this also is the occasion for celebrating the launch of my webinar. And it will be an open window into the way I teach, and also with some nuggets from that webinar from that online course that launched today about pairing typefaces like a pro. For those of you who want to go deeper, if you want to and want to learn more, if you like what you see, there is a special offer for you at the end. However you decide, with the course or without the course, you will walk away from this webinar with something that will help you to pick a typeface and to combine typefaces right away. Online course or no online course. So this is definitely something that should be helpful for you today. Okay, now let's find out where you are at this. Tell me in the chat, are you here because you are new to the topic and want to level up? Are you experienced in type number 2 and want some more tools up in your belt? Are you a typography pro, number 3, and could always use a few more tips? Or number 4, it's cold outside and type warms my heart. It definitely warms my heart. So let's see about that. Okay, we are from number 1. Stevie G says he's fairly new to the topic. Cedric, I think, says it's number, or I'm not sure about the name because I see one. Then we have a number 2. 1 and 4, definitely. 1, 2. Oh, typefaces are scary, says S. Okay, so many. Oh, yeah, sure. Okay, Roland says 2 and 4. 1 and 4. 2. Nicole says is experienced. Stefan says 3 and 4. Oh, a pro. Welcome, Stefan. Tulia 2 and 4. Christian. Okay, definitely some great reactions here. We see there are quite some beginners here, which is great because in this webinar you will find out how you can get started. But sometimes you also need a little refresher of the foundations to get going and see how well you have applied them maybe. But I'm also going to show you some advanced stuff today that might fast forward your results even if you're already experienced with that. Okay, so this is what we're going to cover today, my friend. I'm going to tell you what you should pay attention to when picking a font. If a paid or free font is better, you will also find out what works for headings, for body text, and for user interface design. You will know after this webinar if a sans-serif or serif typeface is better, and you will also have some approaches how to pair typefaces. So, and we will do this not just by clicking some slides, because this definitely would be boring and you don't want that. We are going to do this with my top 7 myths about picking and pairing fonts. And we're not going to do it that easy. Everything's a myth. No. I want you to participate, as I said. After each claim, I'm going to ask you, is it a myth or is it a fact? And here we see right away the typeface from before, from Blaze Type, which is now appropriate, isn't it? It's very mystical and so, and I'm not that sure if you see, I really like black letter. So it depends on the context, but here again you can see myth, that's mysterious, isn't it? And stay as well for this very challenging task. DJ Mio sent in to me this typeface, C-Wave, and wants to know with which typeface it pairs well. And we're going to take a look at that example, at that challenging example at the end of the webinar, so stay for that. Okay, so, but before we can get going, let's take a step back and think a bit about how you feel when it comes to pairing fonts. And I'm sure this might be a bit overwhelming. When looking at typefaces, you might feel a bit like, oh, so many options, so much to choose from. Oh God, it's so intimidating. Oh, I don't want to make a mistake. What should I pick? When actually choosing typefaces is fun. Definitely. Don't be so hard on yourself. Typography police will not show up and arrest you if you make a less than ideal font choice or combination. This is a visual design. It is not something where somebody might die from it, except from the example before with the doctor, because yeah, this was very, very horrible. I won't do it again, promised. So, but regarding this thing, I really want you to have fun, enjoy it, and feel that typography can be joyful, fun. This is what a good font choice should look like, definitely. So let's get going. Let's leave all this baggage and all these rules and these dogmatic things aside, and let's have some fun, talk about type, and start with the first claim. Top 7. So we're starting from backwards because Yeah, as you might have known already, I know all the tricks and I want you to stay engaged. So what is number one? You want to know? Then keep watching. Okay, so moving on. So what would you say in the chat? Only use neutral sans for every project. Is this a myth or is it a fact? So let's say, what do you think? What do you think? Is it a myth or is it a fact? This gives me a bit time to take a sip, to step back. Okay, Yvonne says myth. Crooks says myth as myth. Definitely myth from Stefan. And Uncle Trick says myth. Stefan again, myth with an asterisk. Okay, yeah, definitely. Nicole, myth, myth. What is a sans? Good question, Christian, and we're going to cover that definitely. So let's see. Okay, and it's a myth. Of course it's a myth, because type is never neutral. That was a trick I pulled on you. Why is type never neutral? This is a quote by Jason Parmental. We saw it before in the examples. Every typeface conveys something. Form and content, the shape and the content, they are so combined, you cannot separate them from each other. There's always a feeling or a vibe that comes with it. So definitely never neutral. Jason Parmental is a great guy. There's also an interview with him on Pimp My Type here. You can watch this or listen to it on pimpmytype.com/talk02, where we go more into variable fonts and stuff, but yeah, just a great guy. Okay, but back now to the myth and why it is a myth. So there are two basic principles when it comes to picking typefaces. And one of them is font follows feeling, which is the emotional part. It's about branding. It sets the vibe for your message. You saw this already with my love letter and my thread. And then you have font follows function. And this is for the message to be easy to read. It mostly applies to body text and functional text. We're going to cover that further on. But for now, let's stay with the feeling part. And now let's take a look. The question you should ask yourself when picking a typeface is, and this is really an important question. What is appropriate for your project? Because every project is different and every situation is different and needs something else. So there are some genre classifications that are very common, and you might be familiar with them because, yeah, I'm covering the display, I see, so sorry for that, but I'm sure you can read it as well. But display text is the last category. When you browse on Google Fonts or others, you also might have monospace or other things. These are these very broad genre classifications. And with all these different genres comes different feelings, different vibes, because the visual representation of your text changes the atmosphere, definitely. Now, let's take a look at sans-serif. A sans, or like you asked Christian before, a sans-serif is something that is without serifs. It defines that it has not these tiny little strokes at the end of a letter. And you will see this when we take a look at the serif typeface. And here are some examples for sans-serif typefaces you might be familiar with. And they are mostly perceived as modern, clean, maybe minimalistic, sometimes also as dry, replaceable, or technical, also restrained. So it always comes with a benefit and maybe with something that might not fit that well for your given situation, for your project. And it can work for various kinds of text. Don't worry so much about these texts. I'm going to cover them later. Now, when it comes to the serifs, so you can see they have these tiny feet and like PT serif, Brassey, Garamond, and they are definitely perceived as something more traditional, maybe classical, established or trustworthy. But they also could be a bit dusty and old-fashioned and so depending on your project and if it's appropriate for your project. So they might not work for functional text as well, depending. And now when it comes to slab serifs are with very striking and strong serifs, confident, like here you can see Rockwell, this is a cool typeface. Eames is also a bit more delicate, and Adele, or this, as I said, could be perceived as confident, stable, striking, also solid, but sometimes as clunky, also a bit outdated, depending. And again, it might work for the first two categories of text, but for functional text, let's see. Then we cover script fonts. So what's script fonts? Script fonts is more about this calligraphic vibe. So if you have craftsmanship, penman, so if you want to write this very beautifully with a broad nib pen or a pointed nib pen or something, you get a feeling for that. Wedding invitation or something hipster with a brush script or something like this. It can be very lively, individual, playful and expressive, also very elaborate depending on the typeface, and skillful. But it really only works for display text, which means it should be used in very large sizes and for a little text only. And handwritten, what's the difference here from the one before, script and handwritten? I'm confused. I'm sure you're confused because this is so confusing. No, it is not, because this is more relating to if somebody has written this with their own hand, and it is more humane in this case, like something like these typefaces on the left, the classic comic or supermarket or Shelby. Approachable, natural, friendly, something like this, authentic, down to earth, as if I wrote an annotation in there. It shouldn't be that fancy like the script typefaces. And as well, only usable for a little text, not for a lot. And covering the display category, which is in all these font catalogs, Google Fonts, Adobe Fonts, wherever you browse. It's the category where they toss in everything they do not know where it belongs. And you will find serif typefaces in there as well, and sans-serif typefaces, but the idea behind that is it should be more striking and interesting and maybe atmospheric. And surprise! It's only good for display text. Who would have known that? Okay, so this is actually the basic why you should pick something that definitely fits your project. And then let's think about what kind should fit for your project, and then moving on after that. Okay, let's continue to the next myth, number 6. Never use any kind of handwritten typefaces. We already covered that before, so let's take a look at that. What do you think, my friend? Do you think it is a myth or is it a fact? Type in your comments in the chat. Fact. Okay. Then Espen says myth. Stefan says complete myth. Then we have Nicole, myth again. Simpson, myth. Yvonne, myth. Stevie G, myth. Crooks, myth. Natalie, myth. Stefan, fairy tale. Okay, nice, thanks. Appreciate it. Okay, well, the thing with this is it's a myth. Yeah, most of you got it, but it's not completely a myth, because every myth has a true core, and there's always a reason why there is this myth and this rule, so know that. Okay, but let's uncover that. Let's think about these different kinds of text first before we tackle the issue with why you should use or why you can use handwritten typefaces. You can use them, but there are 3 different kinds of text, as you already saw. There's display text, there's body text, and there is functional text. These 3 kinds of text are used in my case study here on this phone. For a heading might be a display text, something that is short and large and is more seen than read. Then we have body text, which is for continuous reading, long reading, and then we have tiny captions, marginalia, annotations, something like that, but also maybe navigational elements or user interface components. This is functional text. And for the Display text, in this case, it could also be a pull quote, something that's rather large. And now a brilliant quote by a brilliant man, Richard Rutter. I only can recommend his book on web typography, where he says display text is all about seduction. Its purpose is to draw your reader into the content. And this is with this feeling part, choosing a typeface that expresses the mood and atmosphere you want to convey for your project. And here again, a display typeface, which is very striking, very loud, representative, very themey, and some other examples as you have seen them already. And now you kind of understand that script fonts are also display fonts. It's a bit confusing, but actually they are. In this case, it's about how they should be used and not how they are categorized. Sometimes they are categorized by usage, sometimes they are categorized by their appearance. It's not that easy. So, but you will learn how to see this more easily. A display typeface is extremely inappropriate for body text because it is too attention-grabbing. It does not work. So do not choose a display typeface for body text. However, there are also more subtle differentiations, and this is a bit more advanced here, my friend. And you can see here above me that this is the same type family. It's a superfamily called a Brill, but typed together. Brilliant foundry, brilliant typeface, a brilliant typeface. That's a nice, I didn't get that until now. Yeah, absolutely good. So a Brill is definitely something where you can see these differences. Take a look at the serifs. The display style is very, very fine. You can see the serifs are they are straight and they are very, very contrasting in this case. And the text typeface is not that contrasting because it's used in smaller sizes. And there are several typefaces that come with a display and a text style. So consider that. And display means you should set it above, I'd recommend 24 pixels or something, or 18 points and above, depending on the typeface and how it looks, but make it really larger so that these details are visible. If you set it small, it will become too noisy, too distracting, and won't work. So display typeface is larger. Now back to the handwritten fonts. So can you use any typeface for handwriting? So you shouldn't use them. In this case, you definitely shouldn't use them because this does not convey this illusion of being handwritten. Why? Because you see that the letter shapes are the same. It is not handwritten. I feel bad looking at this. And now another typeface, Supermarker by my friends from Fontwerk, brilliant typeface. Look at the many stylistic alternates they have, so it really looks differently. The S is different all the time, the I, the T, so they are swapped out that there's a realistic image of handwriting. And this is what you should pay attention to when picking a handwritten font, that it shows variety to get this illusion across. Now when it comes to more the script typefaces with elaborated script and so on, from the friends at Parachute, there's PF Sign Script, also a great typeface when it goes more into this calligraphic vibe. There it's not so critical if the letter shapes are the same because you want to have them perfect, quote unquote, since this is the vibe this kind of typeface might convey. Here you should pay close attention to one tiny detail, and this is the lowercase r. R. You should look how well it connects to the other letters, because you want this to be, again, the illusion of an endless or of a script typeface with nice connectors. And the more calligraphic this becomes, the less relevant is that the characters are not the same, but the more relevant the connectors become. All right, moving on. Next myth, number 5. You can use serif and sans-serif for body text. Myth or fact? What do you say? Type it in the chat. Stefan says, great information, thanks. Thank you, Stefan. Happy you found it helpful so far. fact, 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 true, true. Oh, 2 years says fact. Stevie G also true. Okay, perfect. And is it a fact or is it no fact? Let's see. Let's see. Oh, myth, myth. Okay, we have somebody who says myth. Good. Okay. Let's see. Let's see. And it is fact. It definitely is a fact. With an asterisk again, because every fact and every true thing always has something that might be a true core here. So let's take a look at that. Here you can see for your body text, you should pick something that is not obstructive. A good text typeface is best when it doesn't call much attention to itself, like this example here with Teaser Pro. It has nothing striking, nothing special. It disappears somehow because the content is king and not the typeface is king. So, great typeface, serif typeface in this case, Teaser Pro. Let's take a look at the sans-serif typeface. And what would you say? Is this a good typeface for body text as well? Because I can use sans and sans-serif, can't I? What would you say, chat? Type in the chat, is it good to use Josephine Sans in this case for body text? Or would you say it's not that ideal here? Maybe nope. Okay, I get a nope. Do I get a yope or do I get a yes? Nope. Okay. But what didn't I just say it's a fact that you can use sans and sans-serif? I betrayed you, my friend. I betrayed you. No, I did not. The thing here is actually it is about what kind. The serifs are, let's say, a nice addition, but they're not the main reason for things. Here, Josephine Sans. You have a very striking character here, and that's the lowercase e. And it screams at you once you've seen it. I tried to mark it, but I only marked it in that one line. And this is too striking, too distracting. So it's not only about serif or sans-serif. It's not only about one is good and one is bad. First of all, you go back to the primer part. Font follows feeling. Does it fit your project, the mood, the atmosphere you want to convey? Okay, I want something more traditional, I'll pick a serif font. Or I want something more modern, I pick a sans-serif font. And then you think about this vibe as, again, modern, elegant. And then you think about the shapes of the letters. And now let's take a look at this example. Can you read this? Who can read this? So, who can read this line, types it in the chat, please. Curious if you can. It's not that easy. Or is it easy? Not sure. So, type. What does this mean? Okay, Nicole was disgusted by my example. I get it. Yeah. Sorry for that, Nicole. Are the letters distinctive enough? Very well. Well done. And definitely, and they are. And this is the thing, we read more or less the letter shapes from the upper half of the lowercase alphabet. And in this case, it could be several different letters, A, G, and Q. So this is something that you should bear in mind. The more constructed or geometric something seems, I wouldn't use it for body text then, because the letter shapes are very easy to mix up, and therefore the words are not that easy to read. The word shapes are not that easy to recognize. Here, the geometric typeface with Objektiv doesn't work that well. Then you have a humanist sans with Ella, which is more distinct, and best one here is the serif typeface. And yes, serif typefaces, more or less, there are also geometric serif typefaces, but serif typefaces have the vibe of being easier to recognize for long reading text. So take a look at a typeface where the letter shapes are distinct, if it's a sans-serif. And there's another factor, which is the X height. This makes me extremely excited here, because when you compare the same font size, the same type size, but it's perceived differently. And the smaller the X height, which is the relative height of the lowercase letters to the uppercase letters, the smaller the X height, the smaller the typeface is perceived. And this is also the reason why it's harder to read for long reading text, because you have to set it ridiculously large, and it's not a good choice. And here with Josephine Sans you see it. So Josephine Sans overall, very geometric, low X height and striking letter shapes, bad typeface for long reading text. Not because of sans-serif, because of these factors. And here a good typeface, Teaser Sans Pro. That's cheap because before I showed you Teaser Pro and now Teaser Sans Pro. However, you see the difference, this works much better. So remember, boring is better for body text. Sans and serif are both fine if the letters are distinctive enough, and always go for larger X heights when it comes to body text. Also Garamond, ridiculously small X height. It's a serif typeface Garamond, so don't pick that or set it larger. I think it's not ideal for that. So, okay. Moving on, next one is this. A myth or a fact? You need to spend a lot of money for good fonts. Is it a truth or is it not a truth? Let's see what you type in the chat. Robert says a myth. Roland says a myth. What do we have? Depends. Yes, it always depends, of course. Neither. Okay, yeah. Cool. Let's see. Myth. Myth, but I'd pay for a good font. Do you? Perfect. Love that. Okay, mythical bee. Definitely a mythical beast or not? It is a mythical beast. It is. So the thing with that is, it's not about if you pay for a typeface or if you do not pay for a typeface. It is more about other things. There are a lot of quality typefaces out there, but my friend, free also comes at a price. And the price for that might be uniqueness or time. Because a good quality free font most of the time might be very, very overused, or you might spend a lot of time looking for it. So on Google Fonts, for example, what do we have here? Roboto, OpenSense, Lato. Oh God, I cannot see them anymore. They are everywhere. But that's the thing. It is at cost of the uniqueness of your project. This doesn't mean that a paid font is super unique, because there are very popular paid fonts as well. And it also doesn't mean that a paid font is superior in quality. You will also always have to think, life is so hard. Isn't there an easy answer? But when it comes to the other aspect that I wanted to share with you, font follows feeling. Now let's cover the second part with font follows function, because this is more about how well it performs in given situations and if it contains the things that you need for the functions it should serve. For example, you want your typefaces to have various weights and styles. If it's only a display typeface for a headline or a title, you could use one. But it's a body text, you might use something bold, something italic maybe, for emphasis. You also should think about the languages that are supported. Special characters or open type features. This might be these replacements of repeating letters, as you saw in this handwritten typeface Supermarker by Fontwerk. Brilliant typeface again. And like maybe a variable font, you might also want to consider file size, making it very small, and definitely also licensing, which is this free part now. Let's cover that in a minute. But think about your project. Maybe you need some special icons, glyphs or characters, and this always also demands if this typeface is well equipped. And a lot of free typefaces might even miss with quotation marks or umlauts in German, or other special characters that might not work for a language. And this is the reason why the very popular typefaces are so popular, because they come with that, most of them, and a lot of on Google Fonts already cover that. But anyway, let's stick to the price as well, because this is basically the thing that always depends it. And this is now something intimate between us, because the budget always is, let's say it bluntly, it's always about money, isn't it? And you should think, isn't your project unique enough? Isn't it interesting enough to maybe invest in a little uniqueness? And there are people that are working hard to make brilliant and beautiful typefaces. Don't they deserve a share of the success of your project? So, my suggestion here is that you definitely should build your trusted library of sources. And there's not one source that works for everything. So, for example, Pimp My Type. If you don't know already, there's a newsletter with weekly font recommendations, and these are all quality typefaces. And some are not, but then I point out why, so you will learn something, but always depending on what you want to use them for. But the thing here is that you can find free fonts and paid fonts, and I share free fonts and paid fonts. So 1 week free fonts, next one paid fonts, so that everything is covered here. Then you could go to My Fonts. No, of course not. This was a trick. It was a trap. Go away, go away. No, you definitely do not want to go to Monotype or anything from Monotype. Why? Monotype is a monopoly type. This is My Fonts, Font Shop, all this Linotype, everything there. I really would recommend to you that if you want to use a marketplace, go to I Love Typography. There you can compare this with fair conditions to the foundries, not like My Fonts. And if you want to go there, click the link below. It's an affiliate link. Proud to be an affiliate. The others are not affiliate of, because you can definitely directly purchase from foundries, which is definitely a good idea, but it might be a bit harder to build up that library of trusted foundries, because some only have a little typefaces. You already saw Supermarker before that at Fontwork, but they show very, very good licensing conditions that also contain web and app and ebook usage with their standard license, what I really, really appreciate here. And also at Parachute, sorry, Freudchen, so not Paratype. At Parachute, they have brilliant typefaces, and if it's a free font, again, League of Movable Type is also a good source, but their typefaces are already very, very overused, because good quality and free. There we have the problem again. So think about the budget at the beginning of your project, and then decide what you need, and maybe a free font might take you longer to find than a good paid font. So, was this now a myth or a fact? I'm not sure. Okay, so myth number 3. Simply use Helvetica and you're fine. Done. What is it? Okay, we have a question for the Q&A later about licensing, how this is enforced. I'll mark this, or I hopefully remember it. Type it in the chat again if I don't remember it. So, myth. 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 Okay, so, really? Is it a myth? Of course it's a myth. You know I hate Helvetica. I think you know. No, let's cover functional text and these things, because Helvetica is horrible at functional text. So, this is horrible to read. Can you read it? Oh God, it's so horrible to read. And here you can see something very, very obviously using a display typeface for functional text, for small text. So, do not do that. When it comes to functional text, it's more about, again, recognizable and easy to read letter shapes. And there's this famous IL1 test. Take a look at Gill Sans. Gill Sans has the same shape for 3 different characters. Firo Sans is more distinct. It has for the lowercase L a serif, and for the number 1 it's also distinct. And recursive is very, very clear to read, so it's easy to read. And there are also some mixed cases where the L is just a bit higher, and it's not that critical for body text when you have a word, but for functional text in a user interface, this is very, very important, because you want things to be clear at small sizes. Speaking of small sizes, taking a look at my nemesis Helvetica here on the left, and on the right PT Sans, and you can see that the apertures, which are the openings of the letter shapes, are more closed in Helvetica and more open with PT Sans. When I scale this down, it almost could become like O, O, E, yeah, something. It's not that easy to read again. So for functional text in tiny sizes, low resolutions, pick something with open letter shapes. And there was this dark time when Helvetica was the default typeface for macOS. It was just horrible because everything was squishy and bleh. So we had to switch that. So take a look at that. Before that it was Lucida Grande, and now Helvetica was much better before then, and then Helvetica. But now they're using SF Pro and it is better again. But you can see Helvetica is not a good typeface for functional text. So do not use it, and do not use it overall. It's dated. Don't pick something else. Have some creativity. Come on. So summing up functional text, user interfaces, you should pick something that works in really tiny sizes, even 10 pixels, and for low resolution. So the strokes should have little contrast. You should go for clean and open shapes and look for good distinctions. All right, coming to an end almost here. Number 2, you can use as many typefaces as you want. Is this a myth or a fact? Let's see what you think here. Niet. Espen says niet. False. Okay. This is. Thank you for spelling this weirdly. Moto Chris says myth. Nicole says myth. What the heck, says Moshe. I think it's myth. Hi Moshe. Great to see you. Then Stephen says maybe. Okay, Robert says looks like a ransom note. Yeah, fact. Let's see. Okay, then let's find out. It's a fact, my friends. You can use as many typefaces as you want. What? What is he saying here? I'm leaving the live stream. No, hate you. Okay, I'm good. No, you can use as many typefaces as you want, but you should have a reason for it. That's the asterisk here. I had to mix things up a bit. I cannot only use myth. So yeah, no, you definitely should have a reason when you pick another typeface. Now let's take a look at some reasons why you want to combine some typefaces. One good reason is because your primary typeface does not work for the task at hand. Here, this is very subtle, so pay close attention now. Golos text is a, surprise, surprise, text typeface. And this typeface really does not work that well for large size. It looks a bit dull, it looks brutal actually. It's too large. It's used for text sizes. So, but maybe you want to change the vibe of your project. You want this to be a bit more elegant and not that modern. Maybe you want a bit contrast in there. Then you should choose a different typeface for a different role in this case. Something for body text, something for your headlines, for your display text. Continuing with something that's also very common when I did a lot of logos and stuff. What should you use? You should only use one typeface. But then I found this brilliant typeface, Esgard, by Zeta Fonts. Shout out to Zeta Fonts, love their typefaces, which is definitely cool for large text, but then the subheading or claim is too contrasting. Can you see that this here is, there it is, that this here is too contrasting and too noisy, so it doesn't work for small sizes. Then you need something that works here. With XO2, you get the same vibe and feeling, only a bit smaller and easier to read. Other example, I do a lot of user interface and app design, and there you might have something for your body text, like Basley here. Also great typeface, but it looks not very well in navigational elements or UI components. It's too contrasting here. I don't like it that much. So other alternative would be egglet slab, which fits the same vibe, but it's different in a case. And here, also great typeface by XYZ type. XYZ type, shout out again, shout out to all these great typefaces, because here, this one is actually, this one is egglet mono. Brilliant print. So, okay. My suggestion here is now when you want to combine typefaces and you have a certain role for them, that you definitely should go for contrast and different roles. Quick win, easy tip how you can go here. This might be, you remember the genre classifications from before. As I said, you have sans-serif, serif, slab serif. If you use anything from the first row and combine it with anything, also display here around me from the second row, it will most likely, display is always critical because they put everything in there that doesn't belong to the other categories. But however, if this works across these two rows, you will most likely have a contrasting combination and you will be fine in many situations. The thing is, the closer you combine something, the more challenging it gets, because then it's easier to compare and then it's harder to find something that fits. So when it's within this one row, it's not that easy then. So, but we're going to take a look at that anyway. So closing it now with the final myth. You need to train your eyes for years to make good decisions. Is it a myth or is it a fact? What do you say? Type it in the chat. Yeah, there's also an addition. If it's the plan of the design to use a lot of various typefaces, definitely, if this is your concept, you can go for it. No, of course, definitely. So this is a myth. Moshe, myth. Robert, myth. Tuya, for me, it's a fact. Okay, good. Then let's see. It's a feeling. Okay, good. I like it because we all like feelings. I was so emotional here. And yeah, this is intimate here between us. And this is why we can be honest and emotional. Okay, it's a myth, I say. It's a myth. Why it's a myth? Well, the thing here is, definitely I trained my eyes for years now. It's 15 years or something that I'm very deep into the subject of typography. And just on a personal note here, I spent a lot of time back then in these books. It's recognizing typefaces in German, Schriften erkennen. And these books, you see serifs and stuff, and then I took a look how you can differentiate different kinds of typefaces, like, oh, is it flat or is it a teardrop serif? Or so it seemed very, very, very complicated back then. And this was because I did not really know what to pay attention to. And only recently I discovered a tool and a way of looking at typefaces that made things a lot easier for me. And I wish I would have known this earlier. It's by Indra Kupferschmidt. She's a professor at design school in Germany. And she has an approach how you can see beneath all these tiny details, like dissecting the shapes of the serifs and are they bracketed or are they whatever. So who cares actually? And it doesn't help me making a better decision for a typeface. I want to pick a typeface that works for the project and combine them, and they should look nicely and interesting. But yeah, so her approach of describing typefaces is about a 3-layer system. And this 3-layer system comes with skeleton, flesh, and skin. There's a separate video that goes into detail with this. It's very, very, very interesting. But just cover the overview here in a nutshell. So the skeleton would be this construction. The flesh would be if there are serifs or not. if there is contrast or not, and the skin then would be, is it a grunge typeface? How are these serif shaped? Are they bifurcated, or is there an inline font or whatever? So this is then the last layer, the skin. The problem with all these things is that we spend a lot of time looking at the shape of serifs. We spend a lot of time looking at if it's a grunge font or not, but we do not spend a lot of time looking at the construction, which is the skeleton. So, and there are 3 form models for the skeleton, and if you understand this, it will help you already. It's not that easy because you have to train it a bit, but not for years. So, there are 3 form models. There's a dynamic one, there's a rational one, and there's a geometric one. The dynamic one has a diagonal stress. You can see it is a bit angled there. The rational has a vertical stress, the strokes expand to the side, and the geometric is seemingly monolinear. These are all serif typefaces here. But what's even more important is how the letter shapes are. And this is now what we've seen, what you have seen in the example before with Helvetica. Are they opened or closed? And the dynamic form models have open apertures. The rational form model has closed apertures, and the geometric one is constructed, like with a circle or something. And you can still see this when it is a sans-serif typeface. You can still feel this. So it's not about sans or serif. And now let's tackle, with this knowledge, this hard challenge by DJ Mio, which says, yeah, which typeface should I combine with C-Wave, which is very expressive. She or he watched the video about the font matrix but was still confused, so let's take a look at that. So when we take a look at a typeface, let's spell out the word megatypos, because I'm sure you already found some typos in my slides. I love type and typos love me, so thank you. You can keep it or you can tell me for the next presentation. Anyways, so this typeface is, from the form model, from the way it looks, what would you say? Is it geometric or dynamic with open shapes, or is it more closed, rational? What would you say? Type it in the chat. Is it more dynamic, more geometric, more rational with these closed apertures like Helvetica? What would you say? Nicole says dynamic. Open, okay. Yeah, you see that the E is open, yeah. Looks dynamic, okay. Yeah, these serifs and stuff are rather distracting. Also, the contrast is a bit distracting, so it might not be that ideal here. But the problem with this typeface might... Okay, a lot of you say dynamic, but it's a bit in between, and I'd say it's rather geometric. Okay, why would I say it is geometric? Because, oh, let me skip back. Because you can see that the shapes are very constructed. The great hint is always the O. And if it seems like a circle, you can see also the E. You get the feeling that this is something constructed. It's not clearly. The thing is, not every typeface will fit perfectly in one category, but it feels to me to be more a geometric contrasting serif typeface here, since it is very constructed in this way. However, you can then, if you decide that this is a geometric typeface, take a look at the font matrix when you have these different... I won't go into the way how it is split out, but watch the video about it. The idea behind it is combining things within columns will result in an harmonious match. In this case, if I pick something that is geometric as well, and if I know the primary typeface from which I'm starting, from C-Wave, this is geometric, then I look for other typefaces that are geometric. And in this case, it would be a good match because it is harmonious from this form model. In this case, it's railway, which is also very geometric. Take a look at the E, at the O. So this would be a good match, and it would work for smaller sizes. So a suggestion for you. Other suggestion here, would be to go for contrast across the board, make it different. So the typefaces here in the matrix are not the typefaces that I showed you before. These are just examples of typefaces within these categories. But when I take a look at that and I mix it with something that's dynamic and linear and contrasting, something that's dynamic and linear and serif, sorry, then you would get this combination. They are very different and they do not get into each other's way. So also a good combination. And then would I go for combining it within one line? Then it's critical, because then it's irritating. Is it the same or is it different? And here in this case, I would not combine it with newsreader. It is neither similar nor contrasting, so that's the problem here. And what is this then? And then you're confused. Is it the same typeface? Why don't you use the same typeface again? So you get it. So the idea behind this is, just as a starting point, try to find out what the different letter shapes might be. So this would be just for a starting. Is it more dynamic, rational, or geometric? Watch the font matrix video about that, and then it might help you. Or just go for very contrasting combinations as you've seen before. So now when it comes to the end of this workshop, let me ask you, what was the best thing you have learned today? Curious about that, before we switch to Q&A and other things. I think we're going to stay 15 more minutes for Q&A and a bit about the pairing typefaces course. What was the thing that you found most interesting or helpful today? Type it in the chat. Some sipping a bit tea. Oh no, nobody yet. Okay, a bit of delayed. So that I don't need years to train my eyes. Definitely not. 3 type systems, says Moshe. The typeface grid has totally changed the way I design. Really, Troy? That's awesome. Font matrix, yay! So Font matrix, I need to check that out, Tuya. 3 type system, yes, also, okay, that's the font matrix. Geometric fonts can disguise themselves as dynamic fonts. Stefan, okay. Definitely. The distinction between geometric, rational, it was very interesting, says Nathaniel. Nicole says that body text should be simple. Yes, it definitely shouldn't be striking or interesting. If it's something that's interesting, you shouldn't pick it for body text. Appropriately balancing paid versus free fonts. Yeah, definitely. You should. It would also work if you only picked one paid font and then the others free fonts. Maybe the paid font for the display text. So then it shows some uniqueness in the combination at least. Cheap can be good. Yeah, definitely, Ronald. Of course. So I'm happy to see that you already got some value out of this webinar. And as I already mentioned, that there is the pairing typefaces like a pro online course, which was just released. And if you want to go deeper with this, I don't want to be here this sleazy salesman. So if you want to, I can go into more details and just show you around quickly what there's in for you and show you an offer. Just type yes, go ahead in the chat. And if you don't want to, definitely leave the live, it's just about if you're comfortable with it, and I really appreciate that you already got some value out of this course. We also have an easy way of combining for Julia. Yeah, definitely, which was actually a glimpse into this. Already bought last week. Thank you. Yes, of course. Thank you. Tuya, perfect. So then let's take a look and just short overview that you know what you can expect with this online course. Some examples from people that took the course. It's definitely like Michael, who says he's now better able to pair typefaces without this magic or guessing. And this is actually the thing that's most striking for me, because I want this to be, you can do whatever you want, really. Type police will not show up, but you want a little guideline. And you want this practical, and you want this now, and you do not want to spend ages in looking for type history and stuff. You do not want to become an art historian. You're a designer. You have to pick a typeface, you have to combine it with a typeface, and then move on. There are thousands of decisions you have to make. And this is the reason why I wanted to make this course very concise, very practical, and without all this magic or guessing. It is one way, not the only way, and it might help to find your way. So, others said in this case the course gave, Asmita gave her a new perspective on pairing typefaces and confidence in her ability to find contrasting pairs with ease, and also that I am very friendly and approachable. Thank you, John. Who curated this list? It's just so nice statements here. So okay, so let me take you inside the course, and I will not show this here inside the presentation. I really want to take you inside the course. And the course here, you can see, is on a platform hosted where you have several video content, and you can see the modules here. When I take a look at the homepage, you can see what's the overview here. You have this welcome section, and then you see definitely the module 1. You have this welcome module where I teach you about the foundations of how the platform works, also where downloads and challenges are and how you can get feedback. But then you definitely also have this module for enhanced type perception, where it is about, you find out reasons for pairing typefaces, general guidelines, also to make things similar or different, and how you can describe typefaces better so that you can see these tiny details, but also the details that matter and not the shape of the serif necessarily, because they don't have so much influence actually. Then we dive into the font matrix, and here you will definitely learn the system of the 3 layout system. You will practice this. You will have a lot of examples in there, and you will also see how the differentiations and the combinations work there, how you can use this. And then let me zoom in here a bit because it's rather small. Bad typography on my course. Sorry for that. The platform is that way. Yes. And then you see in the last module some advanced techniques where you will also find options and possibilities, but also glitches in the matrix. We will play some fun games as well. And this is just basically watching the videos, and then you have some challenges. But let's take a look at the games. There will be Type Tinder, for example, because I want this to be engaging, of course, and you will think, is it a match or is it no match? Do these typefaces belong together or do they not belong together? Not sure about it. So find out. Then I also share with you my tips and tricks how you can make a not working combination, which is too similar, work. It's basically couples therapy here. So if you have some relationship issues, you can use that with your typefaces. And one thing that's really important for me are the challenges in the course. And this is because I want you to learn a skill. I do not want you to watch videos. The videos are rather short. I want you to learn this skill and to apply it in the challenges. I tell you what you need to do the challenge. It's short, it's fun, and then you can continue, move on, know more, make better decisions. So about the challenges, 10 challenges there. You can do them in Figma. However, if you decide to do them in Illustrator, do them in Illustrator. Please do them in Figma, it's easier. But decide for yourself. And then you will, I really concise this down to the essence to find combinations. And you will get your cheat sheets for form models, for the matrix, what typefaces I use there, and so on and so on. This definitely then will come with 15 short on-demand video lessons. You can watch it at your time, however you like. There are 10 challenges included, so you can practice this and apply it right away. You will have slides, the cheat sheet, my checklist for picking and pairing typefaces, that you have a playbook next time when a project comes up and you don't have to rewatch everything and only watch the specific parts and look at the playbook. Also with the slides, you will get email feedback from me as well, so that you're on the right track. And there's a 30-day money-back guarantee if you are not satisfied with this. So, and this all comes at $249 without taxes. But until December 2nd, you will save additional $50 and get a free 30-minute coaching call with me included. So this only until December 2nd. And you can sign up here if you're interested in going deeper. If not, no worries. Now let's take a bit time for Q&A. Let's say 5 more minutes. And then I'm definitely exhausted and excited. So happy to celebrate this with you. Okay. Question was before that, and I'm not sure who asked it, but one question was about how licensing is enforced. And actually, licensing is not enforced in most cases. It is more about trust. Or let's say, it's not legal. You can cross a red light without the police seeing it. Is it then illegal? Yes. Will somebody do something? No. It's just not right. If your project will, for example, be very successful, and then somebody starts to look into licensing and they find out that it actually wasn't licensed, it might not happen, but it's definitely not okay. So nobody will enforce this, but you should have it in your mind. And let's see it this way. The typefaces contribute to the way your project is perceived, and this is why they definitely earn a bit of that. So license them. Okay, Yvonne says, great pitch. No, Yvonne didn't say that. Ronald said that. Yvonne says, thank you, Oliver. Julia says, I have to be able to explain it to the clients. Okay, yeah. Explaining to the clients if it is working or not with picking a typeface. There's a great way how you can explain it to your client. You should add a little budget into your project already for typefaces, and with 50 to 100 euros you might be fine. For a display typeface or for one purpose, this is actually also covered in the course, this financial part with the checklist. And you could definitely You actually have to explain why it matters. I make a design for my clients and show them what is the difference there, especially mobile design. You really have to tell them why it's worth investing, only to be pretty. No, because it will work better, because it will connect better, because it will be easier to remember and recognize. And the question is, do you want to look like anybody else? Then use Open Sans. Not a bad typeface, good typeface. But really, are you like anybody else? Really? And if not, invest a bit in a typeface. Okay, so is it also working for packaging design? You mean the course? Yeah, definitely. Sure. It's about combining typefaces, and you can combine them for whatever roles you have. If you now know that you need something more sturdy or for smaller sizes, then you look at the 4 models and something more with less contrast here. Okay, so in illustration, to check contrast. Okay, what's this? In illustration, to check contrast in colors, one can apply a black and white filter. To check composition, you can horizontal flip the canvas. What tricks like this can be applied to typefaces? Yeah, okay, that's a good question. When it comes to looking at how open or closed the letter shapes are and how contrasting and how fine this works, there's a great tip. To me, it's just taking off the glasses because I'm short-sighted. But this might not work for you. So if you want to see if still something works, if the hierarchies still work and if the letter shapes are legible enough, you could basically just blur it a little with a CSS filter or Photoshop or something. So this is a trick I sometimes use to be sure if the hierarchies and stuff work. I hope this helps you as well. Okay, thank you for all the helpful input, says Nicole. Oliver, it's always very instructive and a pleasure. I also love your weekly, sometimes twice a week newsletter. It's not only good information, but also great fun. So yeah, thank you a lot. Thank you a lot, Nicole. So if there are not more questions, then I would say thank you a lot for joining today. I hope this workshop was helpful to you, it was valuable for you, and yeah, you enjoyed, had a good time, and learned a lot about typefaces. So with that, have a great remaining evening or day. I'll fall dead to bed now. It was an exhausting time preparing the course and the webinar and everything, but I'm super happy that it's finally done. I'm super pumped and excited and really hope that you will definitely get the results you are looking for. Leave some things in the comments. Also share this webinar with friends if you found it helpful. And yeah, thank you again, Nathaniel, Julia, Robert. It was a pleasure with you, and definitely see you in the next one.